In just 90 seconds, a modern British destroyer was turned upside down by 3 small fighter jets flying barely above the sea. How did this happen? During the 1982 Falklands War, HMS Coventry, a ship built to defend others, became the target of one of the most daring air attacks in modern naval history. This story uncovers the real events behind that tragedy, the courage of those on board, and the lessons that changed naval warfare forever. Number 1. The setting and the war. In 1982, Britain and Argentina went to war over a small group of islands in the South Atlantic, known as the Falkland Islands. Argentina called them the Islas Malvinas, and had claimed them since the 19th century. Britain had governed them for nearly 150 years. On April 2, 1982, Argentine forces invaded the islands. Britain responded by sending a naval task force thousands of miles from home to retake the territory. It became a short but intense conflict, fought in freezing winter, far from both countries. Among the British ships sent south was HMS Coventry, a modern Type 42 destroyer built to protect the fleet from air attacks. Her main task was to use her radar and missiles to stop enemy aircraft before they could strike other ships. But the Falklands War was not a normal naval battle. The area was far beyond the range of British air cover, so ships had to defend themselves without the help of fighter jets. The Argentine Air Force was brave and skilled, flying low under radar to avoid detection. This made every day dangerous for the Royal Navy. Number 2. The role of HMS Coventry. HMS Coventry had been launched in 1974 and commissioned into the Royal Navy 3 years later. She was armed with a powerful Sea Dart missile system designed to shoot down enemy aircraft at long range. Her crew of nearly 280 men trained for anti-air warfare, and by 1982, she was ready for frontline service. During the Falklands campaign, Coventry was paired with another ship, HMS Broadsword, a Type 22 frigate equipped with Seawolf missiles. Together, they formed what was known as a missile trap. The plan was simple. Coventry would stay further out at sea to use her long-range Sea Dart missiles, while Broadsword stayed closer to the islands to provide short-range defense. The two ships relied on each other. Coventry could engage aircraft that Broadsword's missiles could not reach, and Broadsword could protect Coventry from low-flying jets that slipped under her radar. It was a clever plan, but it depended on perfect coordination, calm seas, and good timing. Number 3. The threat from the Skyhawks. The Argentine Air Force used American-made Douglas A-4 Skyhawks, small and fast fighter bombers originally designed for carrier operations. By 1982, these aircraft were old but still deadly. The Argentine pilots were young and motivated. They had to fly extremely low over the sea to avoid British radar. This meant they had only a few seconds to attack their targets once they came into range. Skyhawks carried bombs rather than missiles. To hit a ship, the pilots had to fly straight toward it, drop their bombs at low altitude, and escape before being shot down. Many did not make it back. British radar could detect high-altitude aircraft easily, but low-level jets appeared only when they were almost upon the fleet. The Falklands terrain, with its hills and rough weather, made detection even harder. By late May 1982, the British had already lost several ships, including HMS Sheffield and HMS Ardent. The attacks were coming almost daily. The crew of Coventry knew it could be their turn at any moment. Number 4. The plan to protect the fleet. On May 25, 1982, Captain David Hart Dyke of HMS Coventry was ordered to take position northwest of the Falkland Islands with HMS Broadsword. Their task was to act as a shield for the rest of the fleet, especially the troop ships and support vessels operating closer to land. The plan was to attract enemy aircraft towards Coventry and Broadsword, keeping them away from the vulnerable ships in San Carlos water. It was a risky mission. The area was known as Bomb Alley because of the constant Argentine air attacks. Coventry's radar operators worked around the clock. Every blip on the screen could mean an incoming wave of Skyhawks or daggers. The crew was exhausted but alert. Captain Hartdyke knew his ship's Sea Dart system could shoot down aircraft at long range, but only if the targets appeared clearly on radar. The low-flying Argentine planes made that almost impossible. Number 5. The first contact. That afternoon, radar picked up signs of aircraft approaching from the west. It was a group of A-4 Skyhawks from the Argentine Air Force's 5th Brigade. They had taken off from the mainland and refueled in mid-air before heading toward the British fleet. The British ships went to action stations. Coventry fired her Sea Dart missiles at the first group of attackers. One Skyhawk was destroyed and another turned back. The crew cheered briefly, but everyone knew it was not over. Moments later, another wave appeared, flying even lower. Coventry tried to fire again, but her radar had trouble locking onto the targets. Broadsword's Seawolf system also failed to respond properly because of a software problem and the movement of Coventry in front of her. The two ships were now dangerously exposed. Number 6. The fatal attack. 3 A-4 Skyhawks from the Argentine 5th Brigade began their final attack run. They flew at less than 50 feet above the sea, so low that their wingtips nearly touched the waves. The pilots, Lieutenant Mariano Velasco and his team, knew that they were facing near certain death, but pressed on. Coventry's guns opened fire, sending shells and tracer rounds into the air. Broadsword launched a Seawolf missile, but the system locked on to Coventry instead of the attackers and had to be aborted. The Skyhawks released their bombs at point-blank range. 2 of the bombs struck Coventry on her port side. One exploded immediately, tearing a huge hole near the engine room and destroying vital systems. The second bomb exploded deep inside the ship, setting off fires and knocking out power. In less than 20 seconds, Coventry was fatally damaged. The ship listed heavily to port, then rolled over completely within minutes. Water flooded every compartment. Number 7. Chaos and rescue. The order to abandon ship was given. Many crew members were trapped below decks. Others climbed onto the exposed hull as the ship capsized. Some jumped into the freezing South Atlantic water, covered in oil and debris. Nearby, HMS Broadsword, lowered boats and helicopters arrived to rescue survivors. The water was only a few degrees above freezing. Many men suffered from shock and hypothermia. Of the 287 crew on board, 19 were killed. Dozens were injured. The survivors were taken to the hospital ship SS Uganda and later back to the task force. Captain Hartdyke was among those rescued. He had stayed on the bridge until the last possible moment. In interviews later, he said he felt responsible for the loss of his ship, but proud of how his crew had behaved under impossible circumstances. Number 8. Aftermath and reactions. The loss of HMS Coventry was a major blow to the Royal Navy. She was one of the most advanced destroyers in the fleet and had been performing her duties well until that final day. The British government confirmed the sinking publicly, calling it a reminder of the dangers the fleet faced. For the Argentine pilots, the attack was seen as an act of great courage. Even their British opponents later acknowledged their skill and bravery. In Argentina, the successful strike boosted morale, showing that even against a modern navy, determination and low-level flying could make a difference. For Britain, the event led to questions about ship design and defense systems. The Sea Dart missiles were powerful, but less effective against low-altitude attacks. The Seawolf system on Broadsword was advanced but complex, and small errors could make it useless in fast situations. The sinking of Coventry forced the Royal Navy to rethink how surface ships operated without air cover. It showed that even a modern destroyer could be lost in seconds if overwhelmed by determined attackers. Number 9. The human side. Beyond the military details, the tragedy of HMS Coventry was about the people who served on her. The crew had spent weeks under constant threat, sleeping in their clothes and ready to run to action stations at any moment. Survivors described hearing the roar of the Skyhawks as they approached, the thunder of explosions, and the sudden silence after the ship rolled over. Some said it felt like being trapped inside a collapsing building. Many sailors lost close friends that day. Some suffered nightmares and survivor's guilt for years afterward. Memorials were later held in Portsmouth and the Falkland Islands to honor those who died. Captain Hart Dyke continued his naval career and later wrote about the experience. He said that the professionalism and bravery of his crew were what he remembered most. Despite the loss, they had done everything possible to defend their ship. Number 10. Lessons learned. The Falklands War exposed weaknesses in both strategy and technology. It showed that older aircraft, when flown with skill and daring, could defeat advanced missile defenses. It also proved that naval warfare had changed. Ships could no longer rely only on radar and missiles. After the war, the Royal Navy improved coordination between ships and redesigned radar systems to detect low-flying aircraft earlier. Damage control procedures were also strengthened, and newer ships were built with better armor and fire protection. The bravery of the Argentine pilots and the British sailors on Coventry became part of military study. Both sides demonstrated courage and professionalism in a deadly environment. The tragedy also reminded leaders that war at sea is unpredictable. Even with the best planning, one moment of bad luck can change everything. Number 11. Remembering HMS Coventry. HMS Coventry remains a symbol of sacrifice in the South Atlantic. In 2017, a Royal Navy survey ship returned to the site of the wreck. Using sonar, they located the ship lying upside down on the seabed, still largely intact. The site is now treated as a war grave. No one is allowed to disturb it. For the families of those who died, it provides a place of remembrance, even though it lies thousands of miles away. Each year, former crew members gather to remember their shipmates. They speak of friendship, duty, and courage. For them, Coventry was not just a ship, it was home. Number 12. Legacy of the battle. The sinking of HMS Coventry marked a turning point in the Falklands War. It showed that the Argentine Air Force could still inflict serious damage even late in the conflict. But it also strengthened the British resolve. Just weeks later, British forces recaptured Port Stanley, ending the war. The price had been heavy on both sides, but the islands returned to British control. For historians, the attack on Coventry is often studied as an example of how innovation and bravery can challenge technology. It stands alongside the stories of HMS Sheffield and HMS Ardent as proof that even modern navies are not invincible. Number 13. Reflection. The story of HMS Coventry is not one of victory or defeat alone. It is about the thin line between success and disaster at sea. It reminds us that behind every warship are human beings making split-second decisions under unimaginable pressure. It tells us how courage and tragedy can exist in the same moment. When the A-4 Skyhawks sank the British destroyer that day, they also changed how navies around the world thought about warfare. The lessons learned from Coventry continue to shape naval tactics even today. What do you think the loss of HMS Coventry teaches us about modern warfare? Was it a failure of technology, or simply the reality of combat? Let us know in the comments below, and if you found this story meaningful, subscribe for more deep dive history explained in clear and simple words.